Attorney at law Dr. Dexter Todd visited the prison where several protesters are being held following recent unrest. What he discovered could be considered quite alarming. According to Dr. Todd, many of those arrested were picked up randomly by the Guyana police force with no clear reason or evidence. Let's hear from him directly, because as we say, the tape never lies. Roll the tape.
All right, so I was able to speak with a number of these young men. Majority of them, their actions on the particular date in question could not in law constitute acts of terrorism. Some of these men were actually on their bikes. They were keeping away from many of the burning of the roads and all some of the chaos. And they were waiting to make their way home. Some of them came off of work. And then you had the police collecting them in a, you have these type of mass collections where you just pick people up randomly.
And following the chaos over the past few days, Dr. Todd concluded that the police are using these arrests as a quick fix to remove citizens from the streets. He believes the authorities are not serious about the terrorism charges and suggesting instead that this is a deliberate tactic to intimidate the public and deter further protests.
And haven't recognized what is going on. I don't think that the police force is serious about the charge. I think what has happened is clearly you had, maybe we could see mayhem, chaos for a couple of days. You recognize that the protest was escalating. Who were the persons escalating that? The police needed a quick remedy to get people off the road. And so this is a way of saying, listen, and it has to be calculated if you look at it. Because not one of the magistrates' court granted bail. So at the stage of which the charges are presented, there is little room, if at all, for any explanation on what is the type of kinds of evidence that is likely to come before the court in relation to the matter. So you had a situation where this was a direct attempt to drive fear into persons, not to come out, not to protest. All right? Because when you listen to the stories of these young men, it is absolutely unfair that persons are in the prison on remand for allegations in which there is no evidence to connect them. One young man said he was standing on the road. He's from the Bello Dam. He was standing on the road with another friend. The police arrested him and said that he has intention, they have intention to rob the Chinese. He said, but how would we have intentions to rob the Chinese? That is how he was brought to the station. He is awaiting, now his family went to this Chinese supermarket to get camera footage and so on to see whether they were there. They were in custody.
As an expert in anti-terrorism law, Dr. Todd emphasized that peaceful protesting is protected under the Guyanese constitution. He stated clearly, protesting is not illegal in Guyana.
But we got to be careful because one has a fundamental right covered by the Constitution to freely express yourself. So protest is not illegal.
Dr. Todd further explained that individuals caught committing violent acts during the protest were not arrested yet. Ironically, a man who was actively trying to keep the peace was taken into custody with no evidence against him. Let's roll the tape on that shocking contradiction.
There wasn't one clear eye in that prison there today. There wasn't one clear eye. Wow. Every one of them broke down in tears.
Wow.
Because actually, some of them even know the people who were throwing things on the road. And it's unfair to them that those people who were putting objects and causing, they are free. They were never collected by the police. Now this young man, Bash, said
Sherwin.
Corwin. Corwin says clearly, man, listen, if you run back the tape, you will see at the hospital, I was the one standing between them, trying to quiet the people, trying to talk to the police, all right, this, that. This is the peacemaker is in custody. This is the peacemaker. This man is riding, going home. Police rabbled him. Threw him in a van where they had other men. Some of them they picked up from the corner of the street. Man, when you listen to what these young men, not are saying, can prove. Because we have a number of names of witnesses. They have pointed me clearly where there is video footage. These guys are going to fight for their freedom. Where there are video footages to say where they were, what they did. Standing, one of them said he came out of Albrighton from work. He works construction. He and his workmate, they have on their work bag. They were told that there was fire in a particular part where they were riding. So they stopped and said, okay, they were talking so that they can allow the fire to of course, to ease down and or what the case may be before they make their way home. They too were arrested. Wow. So the police, to my mind, went on a rampage, gathered up a set of...
The law being used in these arrests is the Anti-Terrorism and Terrorist-Related Activities Act of 2015. This legislation is designed to address serious terrorist threats, including those that result in death or involve terrorist financing. Penalties include long prison terms and even the death penalty. International watchdogs like Amnesty International have expressed concern over the fairness of trials in Guyana and the country's use of capital punishment. Terrorist offenses that cause death may result in the death penalty. Other terrorism-related charges can carry prison terms between 10 to 15 years. Dr. Todd closes remarks with a warning. The Anti-Terrorism Act is being dangerously misapplied. He argued that there are other legal avenues to deal with unlawful protest behavior. The current misuse, he said, has turned the Guyana police force into a laughingstock and cast Guyana as a place that cannot be taken seriously. He calls it a national embarrassment, especially given the gravity associated with the terrorism charges.
Discuss the law here, in which persons protesting and so on are not to be considered as acts of terrorism. Burning of roads, not to be considered acts of terrorism. But I believe it was not signed in. You know, some of these legislations which are passed requires that there be some form of official letter which brings it into force. I believe that was not done. But when you look at it, there are other charges that you can bring against riotous behavior, damage to property if you have the evidence. But to go to the extreme to acts of terrorism, let me tell you something. We are a laughingstock. I have colleagues who I have studied with. And mind you, I have a PhD in law in majoring in counterterrorism and terrorism.
Wow.
So it is not, I know, and when it is a laughingstock, when you look and you study the terrorism in its context, Guyana is really not a serious place. When you look, and I have a list of case laws that we had reviewed in acts of terrorism, we are not beginning. I don't know how and why we are embarrassing ourselves with these type of charges. Look at the charges where they charge, I think, about 11 persons in the Quinton Bacchus matter. Have they not learned their lesson where that case is going? They had sticks. People picking up sticks. Witnesses coming before and giving evidence before the court. But they don't have a clue. Who? They couldn't. They talk about over 500, 600, 1,000 persons. They can't recognize anyone. You understand me? It's the same thing here. We're going down a line of having people charged. But I think there is a particular reason they're being charged. They're being charged so at least you can get in the mind of the black youths. Don't come out, because this is likely to be a charge and you're likely to be remanded. Because even when you look at it, the people who are charged with acts of terrorism are on bail. But all the courts, not one of them granted bail. Not one of them granted bail to these type of offenses. It is as though a particular message is being sent. It is only unfortunate that none of these young men had representation.
Wow.
At the start of this case. Because I believe, and let me tell you something, acts of terrorism, the charge of itself, it requires proper and thorough investigations.
This is NewsGuyana24, where the tape never lies. Stay tuned for the facts that matter.